the first question, I just like to know if there's any progress with cooking lessons. This is what I plan to talk about this morning. There's 22 people who sign up for the cooking class, because right now that is building construction, an extension of the kitchen. Our kitchen is 28 years old. So a 28 years old kitchen somehow has to be renovated, and we are adding extension to it. So may as well wait until the construction is over, then there will be more space. Right now, if we do the cooking by demonstration style, there's almost like no space, because you need that limited space for ordinary lunch. So it's good that 22 people sign up, but we'll wait till the kitchen is all completed. Then it's easier to carry out the lesson. And the cooking lessons really need to do a demonstration. You really need equipment, and you need space to put equipment, and you need people to sit in there. And it's not convenient in here, so we plan to have at the back. Because sometimes people come in for lunch and you do a demonstration, it's blocking up that area. So please tell those who sign up that we're planning to do it because the construction is going on. We'll wait till the construction is finished, then we can do it. Second question, can we trust the politicians in this world? What do you think of them? Or can you trust politicians? Well, some you can trust and some you cannot trust. This is just a general question. Maybe what we should do in the future, all your questions should be from the perspective of the Buddhist teaching. Because if you start to ask questions, any questions related to the world, there's too many questions to ask. Can we trust the politicians in this world? Some we can trust and some we cannot. So yes and no. So I don't know which one you prefer. So whether we trust politicians or not, what do politicians do? They legislate policies for the country. They form a group of people who control the steering wheel of the ship. So they are the important people who would guide the whole country to go in a certain way. So I think politicians are supposed to work to bring benefits at home and abroad. So politicians should not have just a narrow home view of his own country. It should be an international view. So the reason why we have international wars or cold wars is because usually people are self-centered only at home and not abroad. Cultural differences, geographical differences, and differences in policies, all this contribute to international strives and arguments, because everybody is considered in terms of his own country's benefits, based on culture, based on religion, and based on beliefs and culture. And so I think politicians should iron out all these differences, consider both at home and abroad. So I think the next question is, who should we vote to be the politicians who lead the country? And then the next questions come is, what should be the personalities or the beliefs of the politicians. And then another question would come is, what are the minds of these politicians? Do they have a broad mind, or what kind of education they have, what kind of beliefs? So I guess it's extremely important that unless the mind is pure, the world cannot be pure. So in other words, everything starts from the mind, from the heart, when people like it. If you purify your mind, you purify the whole world. So if in the minds of the politicians, they always think of the benefits of other people, not his own personal self-interest. There are politicians who work for their own self-interest, for their own propaganda, for their own compensations, for their own interest. But first of all, in their home country, if they always put the interest of their folks in front of his own self-interest, then he will be welcome at home. And if he further put all the interest in front, not just at home, but abroad, then he will be welcome internationally. So it's all in the mind. So that originates from education. That originates from thinking. So in order to purify the world, you have to purify the mind. So it goes to, you have to trace. We don't look at the problems, we don't look at the branches of a tree and determine how good is that tree. It's the roots. Why are onions and garlic not used in the cooking? Because in the Buddhist sutra, in the Buddhist teaching, monks and nuns, bhikshus and bhikshunis, and all those who practice observance of precepts, they should not eat the 5 pungent plants. What are these 5 pungent plants? Garlic, onions, green onions, scallion, and chimes. Well, you can research what kind of plants they are. And basically, they are in the garlic and onion group. It is believed that garlic and onion and all these 5 pungents, they would stimulate the sexual desire of the individual who eat them. And practicing bhikshus and bhikshunis, they practice meditation, they don't like to indulge in that kind of thought. So if there is some food you take in that would stimulate your unwarranted desire, then that would affect the practice. So that's the practical reason for stay away from it. And it's very smelly too, especially the big onion, very smelly. And those who ate garlic, big onions, big garlics in breakfast, even at dinner time you can still smell the garlic and onions fragrance around the body. So it is very pungent in smell, in fragrance. It stimulates the hormones, it stimulates the unwarranted desires. So, and also according to some sutras, this is the kind of smell that the ghost realm sentient beings like. So they like that kind of smell. And also this kind of smell that the devils like, some devils like. So you in other words, you're attracting those sentient beings that are not beneficial to you. So all these reasons taken into consideration, why eat it? There's so many other food that you can eat. Why do you indulge in garlic and onions? So, however, some people think that onions and garlic, they have medicinal value. But if you are sick and you need that as a kind of medicine, you can eat it. Because it's medicine to cure your sickness, then you can eat it in order to get healed. So there are exceptions to the rule. Okay, so that's the question. That's the answer to the questions. And second, the people that are in war zone countries or others that suffer from terminal illness already in the hell realm, or are they where they are due to past karma? Well, in the hell realm, of course, if you are suffering, you can describe that suffering as the hell realm suffering. Anybody who has terminal illness could be suffering, and the magnitude of the suffering varies from person to person. Some have the illness and they don't suffer that much, and some have the same kind of illness, they suffer a lot, and some prolong the suffer, some get cured too, healed too. So it all varies. The fact that he or she has that terminal illness today does not mean that he's going to go through hell realm. He may recover. He or she may recover, or he or she may just linger on like that for 20, 30 years with the illness. I have seen people who have more or less terminal illness and at the age of 30 and linger on until 80. And they always depend on medicine, but he or she still live a full life. And whereas a healthy individual at the age of 30, an athlete, doing exercise every day and very healthy, and one day I heard that he's gone. He died of a heart attack or an accident. So it does not mean that anybody who is sick today would have a higher probability of dying tomorrow than a healthy individual. And you don't know. So touch wood, don't think that you are healthy today, you're guaranteed that you're going to be okay next year. That's the reason why don't delay your practice. Don't think that, I'm only 45, and assuming that the average age is 80, I still have 35 years to live. You can't make that assumption. And you can make that assumption for all those relatives and friends around you too. So life is unpredictable. Life is uncertain. Life is fleeting and changing. And when you come to think of that, that's threatening. That is fearful. And but usually people don't think in terms of they don't like to think about that. They just like, what can I enjoy tomorrow? Well, don't postpone till you get sickness and you start to say your prayers. Prayers, you should do it every day. Every day, don't build up bad karma and try to repent for past bad karma. Every day, when you're doing your lesson, your practice, you always make repentance on what you have done in the past that you don't know now. Maybe in your past life you've done something wrong, or maybe even in this life, in your early life you've done something wrong. Then you always have to repent and never do the same, build up any bad karma again, and try to observe the precepts, try to be a compassionate person, and build up your good mind, your good heart, say your prayers. And even that, it may not be enough, because if karma comes based on your own practice, the energy that you build up in your practice, and the fact that you stay away from bad deeds, would that build enough energy for you to defend yourself in case bad karma materialize? Sometimes it may not, if your past bad karma is very significant. So what am I going to do if my past bad karma is very significant, and yet 20 years ago I started to practice the Buddhist teaching. I try to be as good a person as possible, and I have done this and I have done that, and how come I still have this kind of illness? Because your past bad karma is very significant. So what do we do in these situations? So always in your prayers, you request the Bodhisattva's help. Those are beings who already have achieved a high level of enlightenment, and they already gone through what we have gone through. They are ready to help. They have the power to help. They have the power to guide you. But you have to build up your communication with them. And the communication cannot be easily built up just by a day or two. It has to be in a long, you have to build that communication all the time, most of the time, so that when the time comes and you say your prayers, it comes true. But if you just say your prayers at the emergency and you didn't say your prayer before, it's very difficult to build up that contact. So that's extremely important. And that's why we should chant sutras. We should do certain number of prostrations in your prayers, certain number of recitations of the Bodhisattva's names, holy names, and all that should be done. Meditation is to have reflection within, but we may need help from without, from outside, and that's from Bodhisattvas. And by definitions of Bodhisattvas, they are ready to help. They're just like doctors and lawyers when you're in difficulties in legal suits, doctors when you have difficulties in sickness, and all these other professionals, accountants, when you need them for doing your financial statements, to file a tax return, or you do your company accounts and all that. Those are helps that you pay for. Assuming that money is not the matter, they are just like Bodhisattvas. So Bodhisattvas don't need the money, but they need the communications. They need your purity of heart. Your purity of heart and your communication is the medium of exchange. The medium of exchange is not in money terms, but in the mind. Do you have that medium of exchange? Surprisingly, people just look at money and say, if I have the money, I can get lawyers and doctors and all professionals. If you need the Bodhisattva's help, your medium of exchange is your mindful communication, which is not easy. Just as it's not easy to get money, also it's not easy to get your mindful communication. So, are they going through hell realm for terminal illness? Analogous, similar to health realm, a physical health realm that they have gone through is due to some karma. What kind of karma, we don't know. Okay, so that answers the questions. What to do if your spouse is not on spiritual path with you? Or if your spouse is not on spiritual path with you, then you practice it your own way, but hopefully the spouse who opposed to what you're practicing or who is indifferent to what you're practicing, he or she, that is your spouse, see the development in you, the enlightenment in you. If 2 years ago you were not on the spiritual path, and 2 years ago you were, now another example is 2 years ago you were on the spiritual path, and since you were on the spiritual path, you were a different person. You are more tolerable, you are more kind, you are more compassionate and considerate, you treat him better, you treat the kids better. Everything about you becomes better. Then your spouse is going to go on the same spiritual path as you, because he's impressed. He's impressed by your change. But on the other hand, you are on that spiritual path and you haven't changed a bit. you become even more selfish. How can you convince or impress your spouse that you are on the right spiritual path? You are the living example of that path. You are the living example of what you are doing. Did you practice what you preach? So don't think that I'm going to change my spouse. My spouse is selfish because he doesn't want me to do this and do that. Don't demand other people to change first. Change yourself first, because then you can impress other people. You give a good example. A teacher with bad personality, the students, how can a teacher with bad personality teach about ethics, about morality? No, you cannot. You have to give an example to the students. And the students every day see that teacher. That teacher is very generous, very kind, compassionate, very helpful. He even uses his other times, Sunday and Saturday, to mix with the students, to teach the students. The students will be impressed because he knows that Mrs. Jensen is very generous. She used her own time to go picnic with us. She used her own time to come on Saturday to teach the students who are who didn't do well in examinations. That you can impress the students, not by force. If you don't pass the exam, I'm going to flunk you. You're going to fail, and you're not going to go to the next grade. Which is better? By forcibility, by force, or by compassion? You set a good example. So that your spouse depends on you. You are a good reflection of that path. Don't blame your spouse for yes or for no. You will achieve that yes or no from your spouse by your own reflection. Can females become, next questions, can female become monks or abbots? Well, in a monastery is where monks are, and the head of the monastery is called abbot, A-B-B-O-T. In a nunnery, it's called abbes. So he can be the head, a female, or a nun, or bhikshuni can be the head in a nunnery. Is that called a nunnery? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, a convent. Yeah, is it a convent? Yeah, we call it, in some of the religions, call it a convent. So they can be leaders too. Why can't female become the leader of the female group? But according to the sutra, the female won't lead the male. And how come the female cannot lead the male? Another question that comes up. Well, you have to know the background and the culture of the Indian society at the time when the Buddha was teaching. There was a man-oriented culture, not a woman-oriented culture. So at that time you were teaching and say, we should let all the women rule the country. You can't get to the people. That's an expedient means of educating and helping people. So India is a man-oriented, but I think the whole world still is a man-oriented culture, generally, in most cultures. I think in the Japanese culture, in the Chinese culture, in the Indian culture, I haven't found one culture that dominantly or explicitly let the females rule. Out of courtesy and politeness, they let the ladies first. But in their mind, ladies is last. Because it's a man-oriented culture. Ladies is last in certain ways. And of course, Britain has the Iron Woman before, Thatcher. Mrs. Thatcher was the Prime Minister. And India had a female Prime Minister before. And I think Canada has waited to see a female Prime Minister. Is there? We had? Or before? See? See what I mean? Very short time. Yeah. So, America has waited to see a female president. There was one who almost made it, but didn't make it. And I don't know, but according to the sutras, when the female, in some sutras, when the females are getting more and more authoritative and powerful than the males, then we can see the world is coming to not an end, but to less development, to something not that good. I mean, why do they make that predictions? I don't know. Okay, so but I can see that the females are getting more and more educated than before, and a lot of positions were more and more occupied by females. And in China, there were a few occasions that the female becomes the king, the queen, who rule the whole country. That happened in China in 2 or 3 dynasties. And I didn't call him queen. It's a woman king. Like, she ruled with iron hands in the country, especially on the opposition parties. More cruel than the man kings. So that happened. So, do monks and nuns usually find enlightenment? Oh yes, lots of them find enlightenment. Bhikshu and bhikshunis, many of them found enlightenment. The magnitude of enlightenment, of course, varied. Okay, these are all the questions, and no other questions, and that would be it for today.